Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Laser Round presenter, the president and CEO of Morris Animal Foundation, Dr. David Haworth.
Good morning, everybody. And this grass thing is actually pretty cool. There was a remote, there it is, like the one right in front of me. So, thank you very much. It's a real honor to be here and to take part in the inaugural Animal Conference. I'd like to very much thank the organizers and all those at the Kirkpatrick Foundation for creating such a wonderful forum for us to come together and share our important perspectives on ways animals help us and in turn can be helped. It's a terrific agenda, and I'm very much looking forward to the next 2 days. A little off script, I was struck by the speakers so far and the presentation this morning that we have our work cut out for us. Linda Gates likes to tell a story about seeing her 4-year-old daughter learning how to tie her shoes. She looked up at her mom and said, "Mommy, this is hard." And she got this look on her face and said, "But I like hard." People in this room like hard, or you wouldn't do what you do. Emotions run pretty high when we talk about animals whenever, but it's my belief that data and science, when it's at its most pure, can lead us to make the right decisions. So I guess I'd like to start by thanking each of you for not bolting to the door before an early morning talk about research. Science is sometimes uncomfortable for some people to talk about, and it'd be foolish to believe that scientific research has always benefited animals. It clearly hasn't. But in the next 7 minutes or so, I'd like to share some information and a slightly different perspective on research in veterinary medicine, one that absolutely highlights the incredible rise over the past 2 generations of people, in this case, of the human-animal bond. I'd like to leave you with 2 takeaways. One is that there is incredible progress that's been made, and 2, that it's not nearly enough. Since 1940, the overwhelming trend for companion animals in the United States has been a positive one. One way that trend has been made obvious is in popular culture. In the 1950s, Peanuts cartoons were a mainstay. Snoopy appeared in the Third Days comic strip. Snoopy lived outside in a drafty doghouse. He ate somewhat unappetizing glop, and his best friend was a bird. He dreamed of flying a warplane. But in the 1970s, Scooby-Doo symbolized a much closer relationship, reflective of those times. He could almost be understood. He was clearly part of the gang, and he dreamed of very little except hanging out in a mystery machine and getting Snoopy snacks. But by the last decade, in popular culture, animals have seemed to become fully integrated. In Family Guy, Brian is unquestionably the smartest member of that family. He is articulate, he cares about the other members of his pack, and he serves to keep most of them out of trouble most of the time. And apparently, he dreams about martinis. Dogs and cats as well have very much moved from the backyard into the house, into the bedroom, and even onto the bed. With all that progress, our understanding of their medical problems have not fully kept pace. Animal well-being, like the name itself implies, is about animals being well. I've spent my entire career trying to find new ways to answer questions about animal health, trying to alleviate their suffering on a grand scale, and that's actually what our foundation is all about. I believe that one important way we can do this is by learning the ways to prevent, treat, and cure diseases and other health conditions. So when I talk about scientific research, I specifically mean a process in which we systematically identify and fill the gaps in our knowledge of animal disease. So did the founder of our organization, Dr. Mark Morris, when he started this foundation with the phrase, "Animals have given humans so much, it's time we gave them something in return." But in order to do that, you have to start by believing that we can. There are few groups more optimistic than those people in this room. Again, you like hard. You have to be in order to do this work. Just as importantly, you have so much to be optimistic about. And we can see it by just looking around. When I was a child growing up in North Florida, we had a neighbor who developed breast cancer. I don't remember many of the details, but I do remember that the family, theirs and ours, didn't want to talk about it. They were scared, and they may have been even somewhat ashamed. There were very few good options then, and precious little reason for hope. There's reason for hope now. Today we see evidence all around us of not only fighting diseases that terrified us just a few decades ago, but very clearly winning those fights. We've made incredible strides in our understanding of health and disease, and a large reason behind that is the money we as a society have spent on medical research. Since the end of World War II, the budgets for the National Institutes of Health has been on an incredible race to the sun. Now, politically, whether you agree with this or not, this is just the facts. Today, the NIH receives about $30 billion a year. Even that number, though, is not an accurate reflection of society's commitment to this, because over the past decade, a huge amount of funding for medical research has shifted to being sponsored by the Department of Defense, the Department of Energy, National Science Foundation, and other federal agencies. And animals have clearly benefited. We know so much based on the research intended to benefit people. But there are limits. There are clearly conditions that translate directly from people to those species that we in this room care more about. Just to be clear, it's not that I don't like people. I married one, had a couple, but I, like you, have chosen to spend my energy helping all the other species on this planet. However, there are also diseases and conditions that just do not translate. People may feel bloated occasionally, but they do not get the very deadly condition that dogs do when their stomachs twist and fill with gas, known as gastric dilatation volvulus. The closest thing that humans experience to laminitis in horses is a hangnail. Imagine having the worst hangnail of your life and then having to put all your weight on that fingernail 24 hours a day. It is excruciatingly painful. Horses are dying of it, and very little money is going towards understanding it from the federal government. Even with some of the crazy things that Washington funds these days, I'm not predicting that they're going to go much into hangnail research. The research that does directly help animals and may reverse translate back to people, for instance, I don't like hangnails, happens at several places around this country. Veterinary schools, animal-specific pharmaceutical companies, USDA centers of excellence, and several of the top zoos, like the Oklahoma City Zoo, that not only believe they should care for the animals in their collection, but also learn how to best care for animals around the world in both wild and in captivity. And there are specific organizations, ours among them, that are devoted to putting resources towards the questions that will make the most difference to animal health and welfare. Four biggest ones are highlighted here, but even with these, we're talking about tens of millions of dollars a year going, not tens of billions. And just to be clear, that might make sense. After all, our dogs and cats and our horses and wildlife don't pay taxes, but the need to understand the conditions that impact them is just as real as it is for people. But I don't want to leave you with some abstract generalities and huge numbers that are hard to put your head around. So I'd like to touch on two particular studies. The first one is from a researcher at UC Davis named Dr. Kate Hurley. She wanted to know why some animal shelters had very high rates of respiratory disease in cats under their care, and others had very low rates. There were a lot of aspects to this study, but essentially it came down to several identifiable factors that everyone who knows cats would think make sense. Turns out that those shelters that provide cats private spaces to hide, eat, and use the litter box had much lower medicalization rates and much higher adoption rates by simply changing the housing systems from standard stainless steel cubes to ones with a little more thought behind them, reduced the cat's stress levels dramatically and thereby decreased both behavioral and health problems. And not surprisingly, healthier, happier cats get adopted. She helped design a new caging system, and better yet, created economic models to show what the cost-benefit ratio is in terms of lower medical costs and higher adoption rates. You can look this stuff up online. It's actually really cool. The best part, though, is that with this simple change, the whole experience of being in a shelter for a cat is less scary, it's less likely to make them sick, and more likely to get them into forever homes. This is research, and it saves lives. And personally, I think it's awesome cool. I'll leave you with one more study. This one's called the Golden Retriever Lifetime Study. And in it, we at Morris Animal Foundation are closely following 3,000 golden retrievers across the country in homes through the course of their entire lives. Through exquisitely detailed surveys that the owners and veterinarians fill out, as well as yearly bloods and other samples that we are taking, we will determine the most important nutritional, genetic, and environmental risk factors for cancer. This knowledge does not only help golden retrievers, but will reduce the risk of developing cancer in all dogs. Golden Retriever Lifetime Study is a 10-year-long, $25 million effort, but it will yield the largest treasure trove of information veterinary medicine has ever known. The dog on the screen is participant number 1199, also known as Bridger Haworth, and he's leaning against my son because he is my dog. He is an unapologetic knucklehead who I love very much. And when I left Denver last night, I left him with a kiss and a head bump, because that's what we do. All right, thank you all very much for your attention this morning, and thank you so much for your passion and your dedication to making this a world better for animals. Enjoy the rest of the conference.